Welcome back to Hello Ladies, Feminism and Pro Wrestling. Do you have a hard time not laughing every time I go, hello?
Too.
I don't know why either, but I have to do this each time. It's like Danhausen takes over my body, and he's like, do the paw thing. Because he does this a lot, like paws.
Very nice.
Yes. Very nice. Very evil. Don't sue us.
That's just admiration. We're not stealing anything.
Right, that's true. No, that's very true.
Fair use, damn it. No.
But yeah, I'm Sabrina.
Megan.
In case you're just tuning in for this shit show.
We're trying, damn it.
Yeah, very hard. It's the bad. We're going to talk a bit about managers in wrestling. Sometimes managers start out that way and stay that way. Sometimes they become wrestlers, and sometimes it goes the other way. So, obviously, we know you're a big fan of Miss Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm. I loved her. Oh my god. She was just, I don't know, like, even to this day, there's no one else that was ever really like her. Mm-hmm. She was, like, graceful, and, like, she, just, like, the clothes that she wore, like, she always, like, she, you know, I think kind of a way that, like, or reason I really liked her, she kind of reminded me of my older cousin a little bit, who is, like, the same age as my dad. Like, she's much older than me.
Oh.
And I was really close to her. She used to watch me a lot. And, like, Miss Elizabeth reminded me of this cousin, and just the way she dressed and, like, held herself. And she was just great. Like, it was so opposite, because Macho Man was, like, so over the top. And so, like, you know, like, oh, and, like...
Yeah, I can't do that voice.
No. And she was just, like, I know behind the scenes it was a little darker, and
yeah,
I don't want to get into the behind the scenes. So, I mean, like, just strictly...
You can watch Dark Side of the Ring for that.
Yeah, just strictly on air, like, their characters on air, they just worked. Like, it very much worked. And she was, as far as, like, women managers go, I think that, like, she was the gold standard. I don't think you'll ever beat that or see that again. She was the perfect example of a manager.
Were they, I don't think that I know, like, when we hit the Attitude Era, they talked a lot about, like, managerial licenses. I don't think we've heard about that since. I don't think, they never mentioned about Miss Elizabeth having one, right?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. That was probably the best decision that Macho Man ever made for his career, was involving her. But
because people, like, gravitated towards her.
Mm-hmm.
And
she had, like, a sweetness about her.
Yes, she really did. She seemed like when I was a kid, like, also, like, very down to earth, but also, like, otherworldly at the same time. Like, relatable, but not at the same time. She was a perfect balance between that. And, I remember, like, crying at their wedding, like, watching it as a kid. Or, like, you know, when they reunited, and, like, people were, like, blatantly crying in the audience. And, like, she was just my favorite out of, probably, like, her and Paul Heyman, two favorite managers ever.
Paul Heyman, I think, will be my favorite manager for forever. I mean, technically, well, they didn't bill Chyna as a manager. They billed her as a bodyguard, which is different, because Batista was a bodyguard. I mean, Warlow. I almost called him Warlock. You know, Warlock.
Just so cool at Chyna, because you don't really ever see the female heavy. Like, yeah. And she very much was. Like, she...
Mm-hmm. When she first, like, came out of the audience, and she grabbed Terry Reynolds and started, like, shaking her like a little rag doll, in which Terry said, like, the next day she was like, I was in so much pain.
I would have been terrified.
Right.
Like, even knowing that it was, like, not real. Like,
if someone's shaking you around like that, you're probably like, because, again, like, Chyna wasn't... We all know, I think, at this point, that wrestlers are billed taller than they actually are, and that certainly happened with her. She even says that in her book. But she I think she was more like 5'8", I think is what she said in, like, real life, and she was billed more like 6 feet tall.
Her shoes were always a little thicker too to make her
more imposing. But she just had this, like, presence about her. But yeah, someone that, like, that big, and if you're my size, and just, oof, ouch.
Yeah, 5'8" is still tall to me, so.
yeah, that's almost a half foot taller than I am. So that's a lot. But yeah, China was just so impressive and imposing, and she was another one. It was not a sweetness that drew you in.
Yeah.
But it was at least not. When she moved into like where she was wrestling, there was a sweetness to her. But as a bodyguard, you certainly don't want to be exhibiting sweetness characteristics.
And her voice too, like her voice was so like soft and like totally didn't fit what she looked like at all.
Yeah, like that was not the voice that you thought was going to come out of her body. But yeah, she had a very, very sweet voice. She was a classically trained musician. I think the cello, is that the big, or is it a bass?
The cello is the one that you sit and you play. The bass is the one that you stand in.
She played the cello and something else. You can find videos of her that she uploaded of her playing the cello before she died. Obviously not after. That would be something. In which case I'd want her in the Royal Rumble. But I mean, she was in the Royal Rumble. She was the first female to ever enter a Royal Rumble. So, but yeah, so I would say China, Batista, and Wardlow, folks like that don't fall into the managerial.
No, they're the heavy. They're the muscle. They're the one that's gonna beat up the face for the heel like stands and laughs.
Yeah. MVP I think is a good latecomer, really. Well, not latecomer, because you have a lot of people who go a little bit further into their careers, I will say. Not that MVP is an older gentleman, but are a little bit older, and
older for sports and wrestling is different than older for general population.
I'm just being very kind because I once insulted the king, and I don't want a repeat of that. I'm very sorry. I didn't mean to imply that you were ancient, which is what I did. So yeah, MVP I think is really great, especially Bobby Lashley lacks a little bit on the microphone. I feel like maybe he gets nervous, or trying to remember what he's supposed to say. It might be different if he was allowed to go off the cuff, but he stumbles sometimes. So I think MVP, who's always been very smooth on the microphone,
he's fantastic.
Yeah, he's just so great, and them in their suits.
Oh yeah, they look. I was never really sold on Lashley that much. He's imposing. He's great. He's huge. He'll kill you. Whatever.
He's a cutie pie too.
Yeah. But I really started to like him a lot when the Hurt Business came along, and I still don't know why they broke them up. That was the best thing that they had going, and they were all like, "Oh yeah, you're done."
Yeah.
But I'm glad that they still kept him and MVP together.
That I feel like Lashley needs MVP and vice versa. I will say I did see I think it was in Philly where Lashley versus Braun Strowman, and it went up into the crowd. I think it was a false count anywhere match or whatever. It might have been Extreme Rules or
one of those.
Yeah. And they wound up fighting on the side of the arena I was on, so I couldn't see shit. But I could see other than what was on the Jumbotron or whatever, Titantron. That was really great. I remember during that time being I think it was when he first came back, but not with the weird stuff with his sisters.
Oh yeah, that was a mess.
Let's strike that from everyone's memory.
That was with Sammy, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bobby Lashley is another one that seems like a really sweet human being.
He has not changed. We were watching something.
Oh yeah, he doesn't age.
No, not at all. We were watching something this morning, my husband and I, about old TNA stuff, I think. And it was from 2009, and I know that specifically, and Lashley was shown, and I looked up and I was like, he looks exactly the same from now that he did in 2009. I'm like, this dude does not age. He has not changed. It's insane.
Yeah, he's maybe also a vampire.
Possibly.
There's gonna be a sub thing that I knew of just saying what wrestlers I think are vampires.
He's got that Keanu Reeves thing going on that they just they're immortal apparently.
Yeah.
And like Paul Rudd, you know, they.
Oh yeah, Paul Rudd I think is getting younger actually somehow. He's soon gonna look like he did in Clueless. I loved his, like, when Paul Rudd was voted like sexiest man, all the stuff he did like was just hilarious.
Oh, did you see that with the Colbert thing where he was like training to be sexiest?
Oh
man?
yeah. And like just the ridiculous stuff of him like doing the interviews. Now say it's sexy, and
he is someone that does not take himself seriously, and I think that's another thing that makes him so lovable.
Yeah, and apparently his wife was like highly amused that he got it, and she was like, "Oh, okay."
That's great.
I think you need people like that around you, like especially Paul Rudd could be a gigantic asshole if he wanted to be, and
He's so
people would
beloved.
still, yeah, and people would still love him, but he's not, and that makes us love him more. But back to managers. Yeah. One I always think of who is never mentioned is Terry Reynolds. And it's very much so because when I started watching wrestling, she was a manager then. Like she was managing the Hardy Boys. They had the Terry Invitational. And I always think that she was a great manager. I mean, there was that weird stuff with Moppy when she was with Perry Saturn. And I mean, that was special.
The 90s were a wild time, man. Like,
they got a mop over. But I mean, they also got head over.
I was just going to say, they also got a mannequin head, so.
Speaking of the 90s, did you see Ken Shamrock lately? Like, did you see that meme?
About looking like Al Bundy?
Yeah, if you've ever seen The 10th Kingdom, that, like, weird, like, really niche, it's like a movie, well, it was, like, a show, made for TV thing. It's, like, 6 hours long. But, he plays the Troll King in it. And specifically, Ken Shamrock looks like Al Bundy as the Troll King.
It's like Al Bundy's head on like this muscle body. It's
like on Ken's body.
It's the funniest shit I've ever seen.
I was like, and I think Ken Shamrock, from everything I think he's actually like a fairly liberal guy. I want to say, like, I don't think you would think he would be a huge asshole. And I'm pretty sure that he's not, because I remember being shocked.
I don't know much about him, like, outside of what I saw him in wrestling.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure.
Yeah, you just, like, if you think guys from back then and him leaving to go to, like, do MMA, like, the image that I would have painted was a big jackass who was like a womanizer and all, which he could be a womanizer. I don't know, but he seems to be very forward thinking compared to some of his contemporaries.
So he's more progressive.
Yes. At least from some of the tweets that I've seen. I'm sure someone's going to be like, well, there's this. Like, I didn't know.
Yeah, there's always something that can be dug up from a decade ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, Terry, I was always a fan of like her stuff. I think she was really good at enhancing the talent. Oh, Lana. Yes, Lana. And I said it last time and I'll say it again. Like, I was really getting behind her as a wrestler. Did I think she was going to be the next Trish Stratus? Probably not. But like, women, not all male wrestlers are The Rock.
Yeah.
That's okay. Not all female wrestlers are going to be Charlotte or Trish or Becky or Sasha, like, or Bianca, honestly.
You need mid-card. Like, I hate to say, like, mid-carders because it sounds, like, insulting, but, I mean, you need people in the mid-ground. You need people that are going
the workhorses.
Yeah.
And, yeah. Like, and there's nothing wrong with that. Those people are still some people's favorite wrestlers, and, you know, they deserve everything that they get. They're just not, they're not The Rock, or they're not China or whomever, like, and that's fine.
I mean, it's the same in any entertainment. Like, not everybody's going to be the Beatles. Not everybody's going to be
The Rock.
Yeah. Not everybody's going to be The Rock in Hollywood. Yeah. But, you know, like, you need people, you need supporting cast, I guess, is the best thing I'm trying to say. And I think that Lana was doing a good job.
Yeah.
She was great as a manager. She was fantastic with Rusev, like when that was a thing. And
when I can remember, oh gosh, this might have been 2015, 2016, when he would come out when he was like the Bulgarian brute. Like, he looks so much better now. And you know, she really loves him because she married him when he looked like that. And not that he was horribly ugly, but he is much more attractive now.
Come on, he was handsome Rusev. Remember that little bit?
Oh yeah. Oh yes. But the crowd when she was doing the Russian gimmick were chanting for Lana. Like, they weren't chanting for anybody else who was out there. It was also when that Dolph Ziggler thing was going on. Like,
that's when they started to kind of like ruin her a little bit. When they were doing that whole like weird affairish thing with Ziggler, I don't know, and like they had her come out in like all denim, and like it was like the weirdest shit.
Yeah,
but when he came out on the tank for WrestleMania and like that whole era, like that they were just great. Like,
yeah, definitely.
I don't think she gets enough recognition as a manager.
Yeah, she was really good, and I think she could have been a great manager for anyone. I think she would obviously be the best for someone she was emotionally invested in, like Rusev. But yeah, she was fantastic.
I'd love to see her work like with Miro in AEW. I would love to see them together again because like they just have such great chemistry, and that's why it works too. You can tell how much they love each other and how much they play off each other, and they were like
so supportive. Like, when she was learning to wrestle, he was so supportive of her. It was just wonderful to see. Like, they seemingly have a very respectful and just loving relationship, and you know, good on them. Like, if you can find that in this world, thank goodness someone has relationships like that.
Well, the whole reason they did that with her was because she announced like her engagement, and that apparently was a big no-no. That God forbid.
Yeah, because she was with the thing with. It's not kayfabe. Like, I don't like. We know these people have other lives. Like,
everybody knows that they're together in real life. Like, who cares if she privately, or not privately, but like on her own personal account posts that she got engaged? Just anybody would want to post that. And I don't know.
Yeah, and I feel like oddly enough, they sort of punished Ziggler for it as well, because like she was supposed to be with him at that point. Because it wasn't long after that, like Dolph Ziggler has a long history of getting like this pushing and roller coastering.
Yeah, it's weird.
Him. And he has so much talent, and I think he is the only case that I can think of someone of WWE running so hot and cold with someone that like they say like fans will lose interest. I'm like, I've never had that happen. It happened with Dolph Ziggler. Like, I still really enjoy him as a wrestler. I still like, you know, but I'm not like as like gung ho as I once was, because of how his career has gone. That being said, because I know a lot of people are like, you should go to AEW. I don't really think so.
I don't think he needs to be there.
No, and also him and his brother are really twin looking. Like, I think if he were to go to AEW, it would kill his brother's career. Yeah. Honestly. Because like I don't really have an interest in his brother as a wrestler. He's on the BTE stuff, like, he's been funny.
I hate it.
Like, but, like,
every time it comes on, I'm like, oh, here comes the weird college art school, like, film class portion of BTE. And then I check out and I go play on my phone for a little bit. I'm like, okay, good. The other stuff's back now. On. Yeah. Like, good for him. Kudos for putting himself out there and creating something that I'm sure people like. It's just not for me. Like,
yeah. I will. So I know their other brother is like in jail for breaking and entering.
That I didn't know.
Yeah. Again, like Dolph Ziggler is another one I went down like a rabbit hole on and like watched a bunch of stuff. And during COVID, he gave so many interviews, and he gave a lot of interviews to people who like did not have big followings. So
yeah, I did see that.
Yeah. So I really think that is a big sign of kindness. I mean, he might have just been bored, but I think that is a big sign of kindness from him. He's an interesting one because there's so many accounts of him doing, I can't say womanizery things because he's in relationships with these folks usually, but like he's had a lot of public relationships. Everyone from like
Amy
Schumer, Nikki Bella, Dana Brooke. He had, I don't think he publicized. I think it was Sunny that publicized like the tryst that they had.
That.
Yeah, and she. You'd have to hear it from his side as well, but it sounds really creepy because she said, like, I think he was sleeping and she took a photo of him afterwards. I'm like, oh, no. Like, you're doing that for a very specific reason, and that is not okay.
That's not cool.
Like, if those roles were reversed, no, that would be a whole cancel thing. And,
for sure.
But, yeah, so if Dolph Ziggler is fine with that, or, you know, Nick Nemeth, however you say his last name. If he's fine with that, no biggie, obviously. But otherwise, big shame. Shame finger. My grandfather would always do shame finger when I was bad as a kid, so shame finger.
Well, talking about Ziggler is a good way to get into another great manager.
Vicky Guerrero.
Vicky.
Yeah. He's been paired up like throughout his, I mean, he's had a long career now at this point, but he's had some really great, two. He's had two manager like type folks in his orbit.
AJ Lee.
Oh, right? 3.
Yeah.
3. I never think of her as like
not like a manager, but she kind of was like her and
like when Lita was like managing the Hardys.
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah, that's kind of what it reminded me of because it was like Big E was like the heavy and AJ was manager adjacent.
Yeah.
And then that's when Dolph had the briefcase.
Yeah.
That was a cool period.
Yes, I agree with that.
But I liked him with Vicky. It was very strange, but it seemed to work.
Excuse me.
She is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it's very sad that Eddie Guerrero died, obviously. I wonder, like, had he not, like, do you think at some point we would have seen, like, Vicky managing Eddie?
I mean, it's possible, like, during, like, later stages of the career to just screw it and the career working together. Why not? Like,
yeah. That would have been great. Like, I mean, he would have had I don't know if the excuse me type thing would have come up. The cougar thing definitely wouldn't have.
No.
I also really appreciate that Eddie was very, like, when he was doing the storyline with China, if you notice, they never kiss or anything. Like, he never did anything like that.
Oh, yeah, now that I think about it.
I've read both of their books, and they both said it was to be respectful to Vicky.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Eddie might have had, like, some demons, but that was not among them.
Yeah, he really loved her, didn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think she's remarried now.
Is she?
Yeah, I want to say she is. You know, which, I mean, she can't grieve forever.
Yeah, people can get remarried.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think their not youngest, one of their daughters, I think, is training to be a wrestler.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I think, or wants to.
Well, there's someone that Sasha will immediately take under her wing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's very true. But yeah, Vicky Guerrero, I mean, she's still doing it. She's just an amazing performer. Like, who came out of nowhere? Out of nowhere.
She's just so funny. Like, she honestly is just funny and supposedly, like, super sweet in real life too. Like,
yeah, when I met her, she was very kind and she's just very nice to absolutely everyone.
like, I think I remember hearing that she's like mama hen in the locker room, like takes care of all the girls back there, which I love.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
I love hearing stories like that.
One of the things, so when we were growing up, like, and into our teens, the women in the locker room and the men's locker room were certainly not like that. There was a very, like, competitive, nasty edge. And you talk to the folks who live through that and they will, you know, tell you about that. But there's definitely a camaraderie now.
You can see it's supportive. Everyone seems very supportive of each other. Mm-hmm. And I think that is more a product of how we grew up. Because like I was saying, how most people that are like bigger wrestlers right now are about our age.
Yeah.
And that's just how like we were raised. Like like to help people, and we're all equal and blah, like that's what we were taught like when we were kids. And now we're shamed for it now by the older people, like the same people that taught us all this crap growing up are like, oh, you're too sensitive and blah blah blah. And it's like, well, where do you think we learned this? But I think it is a product of being like kids that grew up in the 90s. That's just how it seems. Not all of us, but a majority of us seem to be like very supportive of each other and like fight for each other. And you even see that in like the locker rooms of wrestling now. Like,
yeah. And I think like for like the women's locker room, it became very clear, I think, to a lot of folks that like instead of like cutting each other down to try and get a spot, like you raise each other up. There's a quote that I saw recently that I absolutely love. That's like, if we're burning down the patriarchy, we're not doing it by using other women as kindling.
I've seen that too.
Yeah. And I think that very much so took foothold in wrestling, thankfully. Because you would hear like horrible stories, like complete sabotage things. So I'm glad to see that has really been pushed aside. And I have heard that like the Bellas and Natty and Paige were really instrumental in stopping that sort of behavior.
That's good.
And it was one of them that really took like Bailey when she came up, like took her under wings. And like I think the Bellas protected basically the 4 horsewomen when they came up. So no one was allowed to mess with them from like the old guard.
That's nice.
Yeah. I know they're not your favorite, but they did some nice things.
I always still view them as like an outdated product of wrestling past. Like that's how. I don't have anything against them personally as human beings. I don't think that they are bad people. I just don't like their characters, if that makes sense.
Yeah, they're wrestling characters.
It's very much a diva era gone like to pasture that it seems like they're trying to bring back now in NXT 2.0.
Oh, no. Yeah, when we saw like Mandy Rose go down. And
yeah, that breaks my heart because I was really starting to like Mandy Rose, especially when she was like with Otis and like her and
with Otis, yes. And then all of that went to hell.
Yeah. I liked the feud that was building with her and Sonya. I thought that was going to be a lot of fun because like I love seeing people that are best or like either best friends or really close in real life feud in wrestling because that's when you get the best matches.
Yeah, because
they trust each other so much and they're willing to do like anything to have a good match. And
even Matt and Edge, when they hated each other, like in the thick of everything that was happening with their personal lives, they said like when they were going like into battle, even Edge said, he was like, there was no one I would have trusted more. Like I knew he wasn't going to let me die or get hurt. And can you imagine how much faith you have to have and what a good person and what a professional someone is that after you like
steal their
like I think live-in girlfriend at that point, that you're like, oh, they're not gonna let me get hurt.
Yeah, that whole thing was a mess.
Yeah.
They're fine now though, aren't they? Like
yeah, they're fine now. Unfortunately, it's one of the things where like Lita's the one who is borne the brunt of all of that, like from the fans. Like she's the one that's still asked about it. And Beth, who was not around, like
not even part of that.
No, like anytime
in
like
college when that was happening.
When I saw a thing with like a photo of Beth when she came back and she had that like the I don't know what you would even call it, like the Viking biker look thing that she has going on, that
the faux hawk with the braids.
Yeah, she just looks so cool. And people are like, yeah, not as hot as Lita or like hotter than, like, why are you comparing these two women?
Oh my god,
like,
I hate it.
What is this garbage?
So normally I would agree, like, yeah, the woman takes the brunt. However, she was the one that was in the relationship and Edge was not. So I always like
he was married to Val Venus's sister.
Well, I mean, like
in that particular.
He didn't cheat on Matt. That's kind of, you know what I mean? Like, I always blame more like the person that cheated, regardless if it's the male or the female. And
I think it's so hard in that situation because Matt and Ed were so close.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like they're both assholes in that situation. It was shitty. It was a shitty thing to do. If you don't want to be with somebody, break up with them. Don't cheat on them.
Yeah. I mean, that should be a pretty simple thing to follow.
Yeah.
But I mean, they were also all so much younger. I mean, it's 20 years later.
Yeah,
like,
I'm sure they're much different people now. Like,
why are people still bringing this up in comment sections of Beth Phoenix, who had nothing to do with any of it?
She wasn't even around, and like she and Edge, you know, Adam are happy. They're married. They have kids. They're in it looks like from the outside a happy, healthy relationship.
Like super supportive of each other.
Why bring up an ex-girlfriend from 20 years ago?
Right?
Just because they were on TV.
Can you imagine if someone did that to you, like, in real life?
I don't even want to think about it. No, thank you.
Dear Lord, like, anytime you post a photo of, like, your significant other.
Yeah, what would so-and-so think about this? Like, I don't know, man. Hopefully they're on fire. I can't.
Right? Like, I don't know. I haven't talked to them in 20 years. Like, wacko. And it's really... I think it's always really funny to, like, put in perspective things like that. Like, if you were doing this to, like, your neighbor. Like, oh, remember that person you were dating 20 years ago?
People are always very brave behind a screen. Like, the internet is a cursing, like, a blessing and a curse all at the same time.
Yeah.
People would never... Like 98% of people that say something on a tweet or a comment would never say it to somebody's face. There's that 2% that probably still would. Like,
yeah, that's very true.
But I can't grasp being that cruel to a stranger. That's something which I'm sure we're going to deal with. Yeah. Like, I'm sure that there's going to be, you know, a lot of dude bros that don't like the word feminism with wrestling.
Or, you know, are trying to figure out why I have cows hanging from my ears.
Oh, I just noticed them.
They're uteruses.
Like, I'm sure that that's going to happen, and we're going to get called every name under the sun and whatever. I've already come to terms with that.
Yeah.
I don't understand why people do it or feel the need to do it, other than like there's
something lacking in their own lives.
Yeah,
or
they're bored or just I don't know. I don't have it in me to be that cruel to a stranger, so I can't grasp why other people do it. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Like, anytime I even have like a criticism for something in wrestling that has happened, if I tweet about it, I always specifically say, like, this is nothing against XYZ, but I don't know why it was written this way. Yeah. I am directing this towards you, writer, or Vince McMahon. I have sent Vince McMahon some very angry things like how dare you fire William Regal?
Oh my.
I know, and like, but it's always stuff like that, like, how dare you?
Yeah, I would never personally attack, like, I don't know. My friends, I'll say horrible stuff to my friends because we're friends, and like and comment like awful stuff on somebody I know's thing, like, and not being mean. Like, it's just that if the meaner I am to you, the closer we are. I'm one of those people. Yeah. So it's never serious, but I can't imagine like.
But it's not like, it's also like, if you know. So Alexa Bliss, for example, and Natty both have a history of eating disorders. So, like, if you were close to them, you'd never be like, what up, fatty? Like, yeah, you'd never do that.
You know when to draw the line. And I just don't understand this whole culture of bullying people online to the point where, like, a wrestler took their own life. And ones are, like, you know, like what happened to, like, Ty Conti after... Yeah. Like,
she did nothing.
No, she did nothing wrong. Like, two people got in a relationship. Two people broke up a relationship. It happens. It's life. They're young. Like, you're not always going to spend the rest of your life with someone that you get engaged to. Sometimes engagements break off. And people were so horrible to her. And
I mean, if she had done something horrible, like stabbed his fiance.
Yeah, or like punched Pam in the face and like threw Sammy over her shoulder like a caveman.
And like took him back to her cave. Then she deserves criticism and an arrest warrant. But like, no, it's, she had to delete her, she had to go off social media for a bit. Yeah. Like, it's, absolutely insane. And so I absolutely love China to pieces. I do not hold what happened to her again, like with being fired, against Stephanie. And I know there's a lot of like, when did the relationship with Triple H and Stephanie begin stuff. There is an interview with Howard Stern where like Stephanie was very like, it was in before they were married, and it was, I think China was still employed with WWE, or maybe she had just been let go. And Howard Stern like asks her about that whole thing, and Stephanie straight up admits that she didn't know. Like Triple H had told her that it was over, and then she found out later on that it wasn't, and she ended things with him, like cooled them off.
Oh wow.
So like there is no doubt that from Stephanie's own mouth that started when he was still living with, because she said they were living together, and she was like, oh, I thought that was weird, but he's just trying to find like a new place. Like he fed her some line.
No.
And I mean, yeah.
Shit happens.
Yes. I do. Yeah. So I don't hold any of that against Stephanie. I kind of wonder though if she was really apparently pushing, and multiple people have said this, that she was always pushing for China to get a push after that whole thing, like, and I don't know if she was, because Stephanie has been a proponent at times of women's wrestling, but I don't know if it was that or just guilt, like which way that was going.
It could have been a little from column A and column B.
Yeah,
she could, but she does also push for women's wrestling too, and China was like the quintessential women's wrestler.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
When most people think of women's wrestling, she's probably one of the first people that comes to mind. You know, people that haven't watched since then or only know a little bit about wrestling, they probably still know about China.
Yeah, I remember the day she died. Like people definitely knew who she still was. I was not emotionally stable that day, and someone had made like a comment like, oh, I think it's probably drugs. I mean, it was, but like I wasn't ready to hear that, and I wasn't ready for people to jump to that conclusion, and I definitely snapped at someone like in person.
Oh, do you remember that show she was on? What was it? Celebrity Rehab?
Yes.
And I'm probably gonna get hate for this because people love him, but I
know exactly where you're going. Yeah.
I will forever hate X-Pac, whatever you want to call him, like, because he's I don't know if he's different now. I mean, people can change. Maybe he had problems then too.
He's gotten sober, from what I understand.
He was incredibly abusive and horrible to her, and to the point, remember, she was like locked in her room in the one episode, and like the other cast members were like trying to make sure she was okay, and it forever has left a bad taste in my mouth when it came to him, because it was horrifying, because I was a fan of his, and then I saw that on the show, and like I was young, like I think that was out when I was a teenager, and that was it was horrifying to me.
And I've seen interviews with her where like she was on a radio show and he was like calling and harassing her, and like telling her to like, it was something along the lines of like kill yourself.
Oh, Jesus.
And she like picked up her arms. Like, when I met her, you could see she had scars from where she had been cutting herself, like in perhaps suicide attempts, if not like cutting. Yeah. But like she was cutting the right way to kill yourself, or not to kill yourself, because you have to go this way. That was like this. So, but
yeah, I know it's the dark joke, but it was always down the street, not across the road.
Yeah. So when I first started watching wrestling, I remember my one uncle saying that when wrestling was at the CYC and would come around, he was the 1, 2, 3 kid, so he was a face then. He refused to sign autographs for kids. Like my uncle said, like, I just remember him acting like he was too good for it. And
I'm glad he's not one of the ones I met in the back alley, like when I used to hang out back there to try to.
Oh Lord, yeah. He and then so I met him. Well, I was in his vicinity because I was getting Billy Gunn's autograph at a wrestling convention. And I saw, again, he's gotten sober since then, so I hope for anyone who has to interact with this man that this is no longer how he behaves. But I just remember, this was before COVID. Not that this is still gross either way. Him just like hawking a loogie into his own shirt and like then pushing against the skin. I was like, oh, I'm bad with anything that's like mucus. And I almost threw up in front of Billy Gunn. Like, that was a thing that almost happened.
I probably would have. I used to work in healthcare, and let me tell you, like, I can handle shit fine. Like, any... Mm-hmm. But as soon as it came to, like, any kind of, like, snot or mucus, that's when
noise. I can't stand that noise.
It just... I mean, I can clean basically any bodily fluid after being a nurse's aide for as long as I was, but if
Insert joke.
If they ever, like, had, like, snot or any... That's when I was, like, getting my coworker. Like, I can't do it.
Can you wipe their nose, please?
Yeah, but then, like, changing an adult diaper and, like, talking about what we're going to order for lunch, like, that never bothered me. Like,
yeah, I hate like, well, just a disgusting human being.
I legit would have thrown up right in front of him.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, like, You know what? Maybe I did not have the best interaction with Billy Gunn. I'd never felt like any wrestler I've ever met, he has always, like, at least acted like I was there. Mm-hmm. There was nothing. Like, he was in pure... I remember he was cold because he was yelling that someone needed to close a door. And then I was trying not to vomit from Xbox. So maybe, I mean, he might have just seen, like, oh, this chick's about to puke.
Get her out of here.
Get her away from me.
She is green. Get her away.
He also might be used to that. Like, if I'm sure I'm not the first or only person to have that experience. So...
No, that's... Oh, God, no. Yeah, ever since then, I was tainted on him. Just not a fan.
Yeah.
I know that there's a lot of people that still love him, but if you watch Celebrity Rehab, you probably wouldn't. Like,
no. The only people I hear that are, like, X-Pac fans are wrestlers themselves. Like, Triple H and Shawn Michaels and the Clique. The Clique, I know, are big proponents of him.
Yeah, I didn't think he was a very good person. I would like to and hope to believe that he has changed. I believe,
especially since he's a parent. Like, I hope.
I believe people can change. I believe people can have really awful views and, like, be horrible, and I believe that they could change and change how they, like, think and feel. I always try to give people the benefit of the doubt. Mm-hmm. That's probably a big downfall of mine too. I hope that he's not still as abusive and awful. Like,
yeah. So my daytime job is I'm a medical advocate at a domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking center. Anti-human trafficking. I have to add that in because sometimes people are like, you help people traffic others? No.
Yeah, that's exactly what...
That's what I do. Yeah. I'd be making a lot more money. To be quite honest. Not that you should do that as a way to make... money.
Yeah, full disclaimer, we do not approve of trafficking humans.
Delete. But yeah, so I had a lot of training. My master's is in women's studies with a concentration in violence against women and children. So while someone can change, usually it requires a lot of therapy, and, like, a life-changing event that would make them do that. Getting sober is not what'll do it, because alcohol and drugs are not what make you an abusive person. Because, like, Kurt Angle also has, like, a tainted past. From everything he said, he seems like he has gotten help. Not just, like, with the drug addiction, but it seems like from things he said that he's gone to therapy. And I hope that is the case, because I really like Kurt Angle and he seems like a gem.
Yeah, I think he seems like a jolly human now. Like, he just always... My favorite was when he took the place... Who would he take the place for? When he did the whole Shield thing.
Oh, yeah.
And the other two were, like, you know, stone face Shield, and Kurt is like big smile, like, yeah. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, yeah.
That was one of my favorite things ever.
I loved his whole thing too, like, with him, Triple H, and Stephanie McMahon. Like, that whole triangle, all the things. I just remember at one point, I was a cage match or maybe Hell in the Cell, but I remember, because you know how he would wear the singlet, but he'd, like, pull down the straps? Yeah. And a couple of times, so Kurt Angle wears a thong under those, and I know because they would be pulled down often by Triple H. I remember the one time Triple H pulled down his pants and just like slapped his ass.
That's such a dick move.
It really is. But that's, yeah. Like, it's one of those things where I kind of wonder, because Kurt Angle seems like the kind of guy who might be in on that beforehand. Like, yeah, sure, go ahead. It'll get a pop.
Well, yeah, probably. I mean, you can definitely tell that he does not take himself seriously. I mean, think of like the little cowboy hat and like...
Oh, everything he did with Edge and Christian, too. Like, pure gold. Like, yeah, and the "you suck" chants. Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely is not someone that thinks he's like more important or anything. Like, he's willing to look like a fool on TV if it'll get over. Like,
yeah. Which, his willingness to do that kind of stuff is one of the reasons why I feel like he is more apt to change, like, any abusive tendencies that he would have had. If that that makes sense to me. I don't know if I just made sense to the rest of the world, though. Like, abusers tend not to like to be the butt of jokes. Yeah. And he lived in that, so. But, yeah. And I think his stuff was mostly stalking, not stalking can be very deadly, and it's not something that should be taken lightly. But I don't think he was... So many wrestlers at this point have abused people. I can't keep it straight anymore, unfortunately.
You know, it's a weird pattern too, and you see that. I think that it has a lot to do with like the headshots and the concussions and the CTE, and you know, it really starts to rot your brain and changes who you are as a human. And I think that is why you saw a lot of it with older wrestlers too, because you know, you don't really see a lot of those headshots anymore. I mean, you
thank God.
I mean, occasionally they still slip through, like Cody, like with that chair shot where he got split open, and like stuff like that. But I'm not trying to excuse why people were abusive, like, but I can understand
brain damage,
that it can definitely play a part in it. And
because you never want to like, the most obvious example of that will forever be Chris Benoit. Yeah. And you never want to excuse what he did. He was clearly sick.
Well, they said that his brain had so many holes in it. It was like the brain of an 80-some-year-old man.
Yeah. Like, and I mean, that tragedy was horrible, and preventable, but I think the tragedy continues because nobody bothers to showcase Nancy Benoit's career as a manager. See, I brought it right back. She's and Jericho has actually done a lot of talk about this, how she does belong in the Hall of Fame. Like, it's not right that no one mentions her name ever. She didn't do anything wrong. No. Like, she got murdered, and that's not her fault.
She shouldn't be erased from history because of what happened to her.
Yeah, exactly. And she belongs like on the network because they have all that footage. WWE from WCW. I don't think she was ever in WWE. Yeah, I think it was all just WCW as the woman. And was it just Angel, or was it?
I just remember a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think she had like an angel or a dark angel.
I didn't really watch WCW. I caught up with it when it was on the network. I was a WWF kid when it was that. So I never watched like Nitro or anything until I was older and it was on the network.
I used to have a yo-yo that was a WWF one. My mother got it for me because she knew I loved wrestling so much. Unfortunately, it was Sable, and I never liked Sable because I was a China fan, and I knew that they didn't like each other, so I didn't like Sable. I stand by my 12-year-old decision. I just want to say that, but like...
Hashtag Team China.
Yep. But yeah, I still have it somewhere. I guarantee it's up in the attic. I should get it down. Because when you go like this, they would do the wow, which is why I recognized what's-his-face's... what is his name?
Oh, yeah. Who was that?
The mullet. Pillman.
Brian Pillman Jr.
Whenever his entrance music hits, I think it's Sable. Like, I'm having to retrain my brain to be like, not Sable. Not Sable. Nope.
I remember when he messaged me that night. I just started laughing.
Yeah, because the second, now that I've told you that, that's all you're gonna hear. If you've ever heard Sable's entrance, Like, and he has Sable's entrance and then comes out looking like Joe Exotic. Like, it's a lot. It is a lot. Pick a lane.
I understand what he's doing with the mullet, but I don't like that mullets are coming back.
No.
And I mean, that is something that should be locked away with low-rise jeans and, like...
My mother had a mullet my entire life, and it haunts me still.
My parents, thankfully, neither of them had mullets. They were 70s, like, people, so...
So was my mother. Oh, but she really loved mullets.
No. I know had a weird, like the feathered thing going on, but,
Yeah.
like, you know, that 80s crap, but she...
Well, so my mother had, like... So it was a lot of teased. It was teased here and came back. So at various times... She got really mad because I would say at sometimes it looked like when it was fuller, she had more hair, it would look like a football helmet. I called it, when I was a kid, I would call it her football helmet. And then when I was, I don't know, in my teens, she was like, you said this. Da, da, da. I'm like, Mom, that was years ago. Now it looks like a bike helmet. That did not make anything better. It made it so much worse. But yeah. And then the long. And my mother had bone straight hair, unlike myself. So... yeah, I have perfect 80s hair. But, yes. So, yeah. Mullets need to...
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
To hell.
He's a good-looking kid. And if he had... Like, just pick a lane. Like, either pick the long hair. We don't need the, you know, business in the front, party in the back. Have all party or all business, and you'll be fine either way.
Yeah. Like, just... Doop, 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 doop. Be so cute.
Just don't like the... I mean, I know it shouldn't mean anything about looks. I don't want to be, like, sound that shallow, but I just...
You mean you don't want it to sound like most male wrestling fans?
I guess.
Oh, now the death threats come.
Yep, now there come the comments we were talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I want to take bets on how many times we see the word bitch in the comments. You want to go over, under on 50?
Over, under, right? Yeah.
But,
To hell with you.
I don't know. I don't think it's a nice look on anyone. Like, it's so dated. It's still dated. It looks like you stepped out of the 80s, and I was alive in the 80s, and not for long. I'm only a few years of it, but I don't think anybody needs to go back to the 80s.
I lived with a mullet for 27 years. Like, no. No one needs that. It's no good. No.
Not a fan.
But yes, so managers.
Oh yeah,
let's see.
We briefly touched on managers during our manager podcast.
Yeah.
I don't even think we got to Paul Heyman really
No.
yet, and that was what we started talking about before we recorded.
Yeah, because I had seen a it was on like on one of the wrestling things that I follow on Facebook, and it was like a thing that said that Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns were a Wish version of Kenny Omega and Don Callis. And I lost my mind because I was like, oh, no. We never say that Paul Heyman is a Wish version of anyone.
No.
Like, if you're a manager, you hope to turn into Paul Heyman.
Paul Heyman is the manager. He is the gold standard. He is the class you need to take, and you like there's nobody that beats Paul Heyman.
No. Do we have these feelings because we are from Pennsylvania? Maybe. Do I think if I was born in California I would feel the same? Yes, because I have ears. He is just amazing. Like, everything he does from his, like, if you look at his facial expressions during a match,
gold.
So good. And he's not someone who's like getting involved all the time. Like, there's a place for that, certainly. But like, think about how much more powerful Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns looked with him not getting involved. I mean, the Usos were, eventually, but
even when he was with Punk, when Punk had that spinner belt, he just elevates everybody that he's with, even if they don't need it. Yeah, like, he can be with top talent and elevate them even further than you thought they could be elevated because they're with Paul Heyman. Like,
yes,
he just has such a great mind for the whole, like, the business as a whole. He's great as a manager, as a booker, as a, like, backstage.
He apparently was not good at managing money for, like,
No.
ECW. But
No.
like, creative is great. Like, when he when he had creative control of Raw, it was great.
You could tell.
There was the second he stopped, like, there was a noticeable change, and it was not good.
No, off a cliff. A steep, steady dive off a cliff. You can tell the difference.
Yeah.
He's what like you said, like, every manager should aspire to be, because, like, I watch him during matches outside of the ring, and, like, the pure emotion, and, like, when his guy is, like, on the downward slope of a match and, like, getting pummeled, and, like, the fear in Heyman's face, or, like, that manic glee when his guy, that evil smile, he's just
the shock at the kick out.
Yes, like,
oh,
it's the little things. Like, I know that is a cliche, but it really is, like, the little things like that just can make something so much better. Like,
yeah, how he talks, even like, the most glaring difference would be when he was the head counsel for Roman Reigns versus the advocate for Brock Lesnar, and one's very loud, one's more understated. Like, he's not the same character throughout. He was also great on commentary, like, for a reason. Like, he's a great mouthpiece. Like, he could have started a cult if he did, ECW. I mean, really, like, Paul Heyman, had he decided to be really evil, he could have been a cult leader that would have offed themselves. Like,
he's one of those great people on the microphone, and there's not a lot like him, that he can very easily rally a whole army to go storm the Capitol, and, like, we'd all form behind.
That's not such a funny joke anymore.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That really happened. Well, yeah. Well, that was something that would have been funny a year and a half ago, but I completely forgot in my mind that crazy alternate we're in a simulation reality exists.
Yeah. But January 6th was a thing.
Yeah, that is a thing that happened. Sorry about that. But, like, my point is, like, he can get people to follow him very easily. And
oh, yeah. Like, there's very few things that, like, I would get into a heated debate about with... Okay, that's a lie. There are many things I would get into a heated debate about wrestling things with. But Paul Heyman, as, like, a fantastic, arguably the best manager, is one of them. Jimmy Hart is one of them too, yeah. Because he was another one, like, with his little... I never even watched that era, but I love The Mouth of the South from watching Legends House.
Oh, I didn't watch it, but I saw the commercials for it.
So, I mean, the stuff they do with Roddy Piper is real weird, but at, like, the first couple of episodes, but in a way it's, like, real sweet to, like, see these, like, old guys hanging out, and, like, some of it's real. Not all of it, but some of it's real.
All reality TV, like, most of it's scripted. Like,
yeah, I think they said Total Divas, something like 80% of it was scripted. Because, I mean, certain things, like, obviously, Brian Danielson and Brie Bella got married. I always have to stop and be like, what is his name again?
That's right. What I call him earlier, Daniel Bryanson. I just completely...
Daniel Bryanson. Yeah, you know that guy. Like, they got married. Lana and Russo, like, they got married. Miz and Brie, like, obviously, like, those sorts of things. But there's so much. The most fake thing I saw on that show, I remember watching, and it was just terrible acting. And it was Dolph Ziggler was trying to, like, make a play for Nikki Bella while she was with John Cena. Oh. And, like, he's, like, talking to her out back, and, like, the cameras are pretending like they're behind a truck or something. And
that old trick.
Yeah, and she's just like, you could tell, like, Nikki Bella has a tell when she's uncomfortable. And I've watched a lot of Total Divas and Total Bellas, and I'm giving myself away with that, but she gets this, like, look on her face, and her voice changes. And, like, she did this thing where she was like, ew, and then, like, did this half-hearted slap across Ziggler's face. And I was like, this is like, I felt uncomfortable watching it because it was so obviously fake. And I was like, oh,
I did not.
Poor everyone involved.
I didn't watch either of those. I think I watched, like, one episode of Total Bellas when when Brian was on it, just because I was just curious. And I'm like, no, I can't do this. I can't.
It is really cute watching like them interact with well, at that point it was just their daughter Birdie, and like all of that stuff was really cute.
I love that name. I know it's probably not a popular opinion, but I think it's adorable.
It's better than Branch. They were thinking about naming her Branch. So Birdie is a beautiful name.
Well, Birdie reminds me of oh god,
There was a movie, right?
yeah, Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan, bookstore.
Oh.
You've Got Mail.
Yeah.
It was the actress that played Edith Bunker. Her name was Birdie in it, and it just that's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, it's like sweet old ladies that are always named Birdie.
So I thought that it's just cute, like because of that.
And Hope Floats too. Sandra Bullock plays someone named Birdie.
Oh, okay.
So it's an actual name, unlike Branch.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least it wasn't Apple. Like,
Yes. Yeah. Or what was it? Pilot Inspector? Who was it that named their kids Pilot Inspector?
Yeah. Who was that? I
Hopefully someone who doesn't work anymore. Shame.
Yeah, there were some strange celebrity baby names that came out in the early 2000s.
Yeah. Like, please stop.
Apple,
I mean,
Pilot,
Pilot Inspector.
Blanket,
Yeah.
Surrey. Wasn't that?
Yeah. At least it's named after a place.
It's still weird
It's
for
still
a
weird.
person's name.
Yeah.
For a human being.
Yeah. Isn't it also a food? No, I think it's just a place.
No, I think you're thinking of curry.
Yeah, curry is yummy. But yeah, I love it when like animals, like if you have a cat and you name it Sushi, or like a dog named Mustard. Great, don't do that to a kid.
If I was Apple, that's Gwyneth Paltrow's kid, I would immediately change that name when I turned 18.
Yeah, I mean, well, at least she has a mother who's hawking rocks to go into your hoo-ha. Like, don't do that, by the way. That leads to that is terrible gynecological advice. Do not do that.
Everything she tells you is terrible. Like,
Yes, but that specifically can lead to infection, and some other issues. Watch some pelvic floor specialists on TikTok if you would like to learn more. That's where I learn a lot of pelvic floor information.
yeah, you don't want to put an egg up your. Oh my
You're
God.
not a chicken.
Yeah, right. You are a human. You are a mammal. Eggs do not go up there. Or come out of there.
Well, not chicken egg. Or
Oh god, we've gone off the rails. It has been 2.5 hours.
yeah. So other managers you like? I feel like there's got to be someone in AEW that is just not.
I mean, I do like Don Callis. I don't
Yeah.
think either of them are the Wish versions of either of them.
No, they're different.
Yeah, it's apples and oranges. You can't compare them.
Yeah.
People always want to compare both companies and both like top wrestlers, but you cannot compare Kenny Omega to Roman Reigns. They are two completely different styles. Like characters.
You know what would make more sense if it was Jon Moxley and Roman Reigns. Like that would make sense.
Yeah, 100%. They were in the same faction together.
Like there's your comparison. But yeah, there's Kenny Omega. I'm not even sure who in WWE would AJ Styles. Like, and again, they were in the same faction. Not necessarily. I don't think at the same time.
Yeah.
They were.
Yeah, Kenny's the one that overtook the Bullet Club from AJ.
Yes. So like their styles are somewhat similar.
Ish. In the
Far closer than Reigns.
Yeah, I mean they're definitely closer than Roman Reigns and Kenny, but even like AJ and Kenny is very unique. Mm-hmm. I can't really think of anyone else that I mean Kota Ibushi, they were.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, he's not really his whole. I don't know. He's just different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like cartoon villainy when he's a heel, like he very much wants to be like the anime villain.
I always love like the facial expressions he does in BTE, like the crazy eye and stuff. like to the point where sometimes I'm like, doesn't that hurt? Like I feel like he's gonna like give himself like something with his jaw.
Like the earlier BT. Yeah, I missed some of those ones. Like
that weird one, like so I went back to like the very beginning and I started going through when they were very short, and there was the one where which one? I think it's, I always confuse Nick and Matt Jackson.
Matt's the older brother with the darker hair.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. I was gonna say I think Matt's the more attractive one. So yes, which, is it just me or does Matt Jackson look younger than Nick Jackson?
Yeah, I think so.
I always flip-flop them.
But Nick and I are very close in age. I think he was also...
I thought you were going to say... I was like, I'm so sorry.
No.
I insulted your friend.
No, I wish that I was close with the Young Bucks in real life. Are you kidding me?
I was also going to be like, why haven't you mentioned this?
Oh, you know, just... Let me just text Matt right now. Like
Hey,
I
buddy.
said, I'm on the AEW payroll. That's why I speak so highly of them. No, no, we're close in age, and he looks young. He looks younger than, I think he does look younger than Nick too, and I think they're like 4 years apart.
Oh wow!
I think like the same as me and my brothers, which is funny.
Well, the good news is if there's a 4-year age difference, genetically no one is inferior to the other. Whereas if it's less than 2 years, the second child is genetically inferior to the first one.
I never knew that.
Because it takes the female body that long to like heal itself basically and regenerate all the good stuff you need to have like a healthy baby.
Oh, get out.
But so the second child's more likely to have allergies and things like that. Nothing necessarily major. Like, I'm not saying that they're going to come out looking like the Hunchback of Notre Dame, but yeah, they might have more allergies.
Well, Nick was, if I'm remembering correctly, from their book, because it's been over a year, because it was last Christmas I got it. I believe that Nick was a twin, but the mother had a miscarriage of only one of the twins. If I might be wrong, don't 100% quote me on that, but I think it was either she miscarried while she was pregnant or it was like a stillborn of one of the twins, but Nick would have been a twin. But
that's so like, so do you think there would have been 3 young bucks, or do you think there would have been no bucks?
You know, I don't know, because their other brother was kind of involved with like their backyard stuff and like Brandon and everything, but it was just that Matt and Nick really clicked as a team. So I think that maybe there might still have been, because they might have all still watched wrestling together and wanted to have the ring, and like you don't know how things would have differed.
Yeah. But what something with the...
Oh, you're talking about the old BT.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So I saw this episode where I think it's Matt who's calling around trying to like see if Kenny and Nick are available. And they go to Kenny and it looks like he is jerking off.
Yes.
And they go to, and it makes it clear when he calls Nick that he is in the same room with Kenny, supposedly jerking off, and then he walks in. They're playing video games.
Yes.
But yeah, it's just like, you know, it takes a certain kind of person to be comfortable with putting something like that on the internet. Mm-hmm. And I like those kind of people. Well, okay. I should rephrase that.
Footnote.
In a humorous, non-offensive. I would say what they did isn't offensive.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a nun.
It's not like there was like gross noises or anything. I know exactly what you're talking about. Like it wasn't gross. It was just...
And I think knowing that like they're not gross human beings, like behind the scenes, like there's no like sexual assault allegations or being nasty to fans, even in heel characters. Like, you know.
One of my favorite BTEs is when they're killing Adam Cole.
Oh, yeah.
And Kenny has the monster and he's like trying to like hint at the Young Bucks that he like it's going to kill Kenny, and Cody's just there on his phone and he's just like, he's talking about murder, capital murder. Adam Cole's gonna die, he's going to heaven, and just like he's like fuck, and he walks away. Like it just kills me every time. Adam Cole's gonna go to heaven.
Yep. I love Cody Rhodes.
Yeah, Cody's that. Oh my god, that promo. I think did we talk about that in the last podcast? Because we might have.
I don't think we did. I think we only talked about Moxley.
Did we? Because Cody's promo was just... I know everybody is giving him... I've seen people giving him shit for mentioning WWE again, but...
Which, okay. MJF mentions, like... And CM Punk mention WWE, like, every week. Calm your butts down about, like, Cody Rhodes.
When Cody is on fire, Cody is almost untouchable when with promos. Do you remember that, like... the one that he gave when he was feuding with Jericho about like the entitled millennial, like that I still think is his. I don't know if he'll ever touch that one again. That was fantastic, but this one was close.
Yeah,
this was one of the best promos he gave since AEW's been a thing. Like,
yeah, it was really, really good. And I'm a big fan of Cody Rhodes and Brandy for that matter. She is a fantastic interviewer. If you ever have the chance to watch a shot of Brandy,
a good manager.
Yeah, she's a good manager. Bring it on back.
One of those ones that gets involved a lot.
Yeah,
you know, lighting tables on fire, and I still can't think about Cody's back. It just what that man does for that business, right? He is legit ready to kill himself with a small child at home. Like, he just puts himself through
absolute hell. And like, people give him a hard time being like, oh well, he's on all this other stuff. I'm like, yeah, he's promoting AEW, you morons. Like, that's what you gotta do.
That's why he's on there. I'm sure, like, on the Go Big Show or whatever, I'm sure AEW gets brought up. Like,
yeah, or like the fact that he's a wrestler is brought up constantly, because I watch the Go Big Show. It is amusing. I enjoy it. And like, Cody Rhodes also, I really enjoy the fact that he has a full range of emotion and he's not afraid to show it. And I don't know, he just seems like a great human being.
I think that during that promo, it definitely showed that the people that are booing him are the minority, because the cheers got super loud. Yeah. And I think I remember, like, I think it was like JR saying that if 30% of the crowd is booing and 70% is cheering, the boos always sound louder than the cheering, so you'll always hear the boos.
Yeah.
And I think that's because even people that like tweet that have been in the arenas have said that it's far more people cheering him than booing him. It's just become a meme. It's really become a meme at this point to boo Cody, because I think even the people that are booing Cody still love Cody.
I think he's getting a little bit of the Cena treatment in a way with that. Like, that's a lot of what we're seeing. I think also the fact that, like, people talking about him going into the Rumble, people were also excited at that idea for numerous reasons. But, like, you can't hate someone if you're, like, real excited they might show up in the Royal Rumble. Just saying. Like, you want to see them.
People want to see that door smashed down. People do want to see AEW and WWE people in like, my dream match is seeing the New Day against Kenny and the Bucks. I have wanted to see that since they did that Street Fighter thing together it was in like 2017, 2018, something around there, where it was ultimately like really Woods and Kenny, but they had like Kofi and Biggie and the Bucks, who weren't really into Street Fighter but all still played. Ever since I saw that, I'm like, I need to see a match with these, because they're all friends, and I think that AEW would be more willing to work with them than WWE would be willing to work with AEW, because they're very much an island. They kind of broke it a little bit with Mickie James coming into the Royal Rumble, but I think that's just because it's Mickie James and they need women, and she was just there.
I think also, like, well, they're also, right now the plan is for her to walk in with her title and be announced. So, like, if they do that, that's a big deal. Also, they owe Mickie James for that whole trash bin thing.
But she's claiming now is okay, but I think it's just because of her being in the Rumble. I don't think she thought it was as okay.
I think they sent her something, too.
Did they?
Yeah, like, after that happened. And I think Triple H or Stephanie, one of them, actually called her to apologize.
Well,
because they didn't know that was happening.
One good thing, I'm sure they'll never do that again to anybody.
Yeah, because apparently that was common practice. Like, Mickie James was just the one who was like, you know, fuck this. I'm telling everyone.
Public shaming does work sometimes.
It does, especially like in a company that is so large like WWE. The higher ups don't always know what's going on, and it takes one shitty person in talent relations, because I think it was Nick Carano who got fired. Mm-hmm. Do I necessarily think it was him that was packing up people's stuff like that and sending the wrong things that was doing that? No. Like, I think someone said, it was like, oh, they got something of Natalia's. It might have been Lana, because it was pink and black.
Oh, well, they were tagging together, and they had similar gear, maybe...
Mm-hmm. Or who? There were so many people like Ruby Riott. Somebody else. It was someone who got it. Even Renee Young. Paquette? Is that how you say her last name?
Paquette. I don't know how to pronounce it, so I don't want to butcher it.
Yeah. She said like that was very common. She might have even been the one who got the Natty's gear. Who knows?
Wow.
But yeah. Hopefully, like, this last round, who, like, were released. God.
We're going to see another one soon, because it's going to be the end of the first quarter, not too long.
I don't think that they physically can release anybody else, like, at least not from the women's division at this point. Like, they need to bring in more people onto the main roster before they can do that. Not that they should.
I'm sure that there's going to be... There's some people that haven't been seen in a while that I think we're probably going to see get released. It's usually around March.
Who are you thinking?
Oh, I bet Shayna Baszler's
Don't even! No.
I hate to say it, but I think she's going to be one of them.
No.
I'm sorry.
No. I do not accept this reality. No.
Hey, she can go somewhere like else and be used properly. And that's a highlight. Like, be used like she was in NXT. Like...
I mean, I want her to stay where she is and have a great run, because I have so many people that I want to see her face.
I don't think she's going to stay.
Nope.
I'm sorry.
Nope.
I think they're going to...
Delete.
I think she's going to get cut.
No. I think she's going to win the Rumble and everything will be fine.
Either that, or I can see her asking for her release, to be honest with you, because she's never...
So one of the reasons I don't think that'll happen is... It's not really out, but she is dating Dakota Kai. Like, they have a house together. And Shayna just bought the house in Orlando, so...
Oh, usually when that happens, that's when they get released.
Yeah. Well, her, Jessamine, Dakota, and Mia Yim, the BRE, were all living together. And then Mia Yim is getting married, obviously, to Keith Lee. Mm-hmm. I just had to say in my head, don't forget about Keith Lee. They're getting married, so she moved out to, like, not even far, to live with her soon-to-be husband. And then Jessamine made the decision to move back to Kentucky. Tennessee? I think it's Kentucky. Yeah. And at the same time, that's when Dakota and Charlie and Shayna decided to get a home.
Oh, God, that's like the curse. That's yep, she'll be gone in March.
Either that or Dakota.
Or both.
Yeah. Which, honestly, Dakota's another one. I think she'll be getting called up soon. Because, like, she has a really great character and she's been there a fairly long time. So I feel like she will either be brought up or cut. And I think they would have cut her already if they were going to cut her.
Do you know why else I think that Shayna might get the...
Because you like to see me suffer?
No, because it seems like all of, like, Triple H's people are getting...
Oh, yeah.
Like, all the people that he was very much behind.
He was very behind the 4 Horsewomen.
Yeah, but they make Vince a lot of money.
Shayna could too. I personally have bought all of her t-shirts.
Well, you better start buying a couple million more if you want to keep up with those 4 Horsewomen numbers.
Hashtag save Shayna. Everyone buy all of her stuff.
I mean, Becky is like... She's the most over person in the company, so she's not going anywhere.
No, I don't think any of them are, honestly.
No, and I mean, the 4 of them made a lot of money. And that's the only reason that they're, you know, not going to have the Triple H curse of being cut. But did you see what they've made Ciampa do? They made him dye his whole beard. Like,
oh, they're making all of the NXT
because they don't want anyone to look old,
including the people behind the scenes, like the trainers.
I just don't know what's wrong with that company.
I wonder if Vince has dyed his hair. Maybe he was just like, this was a bad decision. Until this grows out, everyone else, diet.
All I can think of is The Office when Creed comes in with his hair jet black from the printer ink, and like he's like, "Hey, what's up, fellow kids?" And like, and like that other meme that everybody knows, but the Creed one. That's all I can think of with the hair dye. And when he's like getting a Red Bull, and he's like, "Gotta ride the bull, huh?"
Do you think Ciampa's being called up soon?
No, I think he's going to stay in NXT, and I think he's gonna end up being like a trainer or something. I don't think he's gonna. I think he is set. He doesn't want to go in the main roster.
Yeah.
I mean, look what they did to Karrion Kross. Like at the
worst thing was, so I guess Scarlett, her breast implant popped.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, so she had to have that. I think had she been able to appear with him, because they still wanted them to be a pair, but they wanted her to also wrestle, which is why they didn't hold him back as well. Like to wait for her. I'm not saying that. Anyway, I think had they debuted together, it would have been a different sort of thing. But he also has said in interviews, like, looking back, like, he would have been more vocal about, like, no, I don't want to
lose to Jeff when I haven't lost to anybody because there's no purpose. Yeah. Like,
he said, though, that was a dream working with Jeff.
Oh, I'm sure it was, but there was no reason that Jeff Hardy had to go over, and I'm sure that wasn't his decision either.
No. I'm sure it would have, like, had a great payoff for Jeff if things hadn't happened, but whatever the hell happened.
There's just a lot of mismanagement of talent. Like, there really is. There's a lot of mismanagement of talent, a lot of poor writing, a lot of, it seems like right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing. It's
chaotic.
Yeah, it's a very crap time for WWE right now.
I also feel like a lot of this could be solved if Vince McMahon slept more than 4 hours a night.
A lot of it can be solved if
he steps down. Yes.
Yeah, if Triple H took over. I mean, look how great NXT was.
Like Triple H can definitely do it. Like, no, like, that's why I will not entertain anyone saying that WWE is being sold, because I've been telling myself for years, just gotta hang on until Triple H takes over and everything will be fine. And I'm hanging on to that fantasy for as long as humanly possible.
So, Brian, he has been saying that before I started even saying or seeing other people saying it, that I think it was in 2020 that he was like, they're preparing to sell, and then I saw like more people saying it, and I don't know if I think they're, I don't know, it looks like that's what they're trying to do, but then I also can't see Vince's ego allowing him to sell that company at the same time.
Yeah, I definitely, especially since I think to some degree he sees Stephanie as an extension of himself. I do not see him, that's really the only reason, like, I can't see him taking that away from her.
I think if she wanted to sell, then yeah, it would get sold.
I think if she wanted to sell, Triple H would divorce her.
Yeah, probably.
I also don't think that Stephanie wants to sell.
No, I don't.
It's her life. This is this is the only thing she's ever known.
Like,
I think she would set it up much. She has said that, like, no one, like, when Vince steps away, no one is going to handle all of his responsibility by themselves, because that's not healthy. Like, she didn't phrase it like that, but she was like, no one can do this.
Yeah, I could see both sides of the argument. Like, I could see why people think they're selling, but then I can also, like, see why they wouldn't and just pass it down, because, I mean, I don't know. I think people are trying to explain why things have been so chaotic.
It's because Vince McMahon needs more than 4 hours of sleep a night and needs to step down.
Yeah, and he is like 76, 74 or something like that.
His mother just turned like 101.
God, he's going to be
It's either 100 or 101. It's something ridiculous, which, I mean, good on her, but
he's going to be around forever then, isn't he?
I don't know. I highly doubt his mother's life was like as nuts as what he's done, because his heart's got to explode from those steroids at some point. Not that I don't wish death upon that man. I don't. I want him to retire, enjoy time with his grandchildren.
He's never going to. He's going to die in that office before he retires. You know that. They're going to be carrying him out with his dinosaur head before.
While he's clutching what is it, hand sanitizer.
And still trying to tell people not to sneeze because it's a sign of weakness.
Right.
Jesus Christ, that man is crazy.
Yeah. I, like, JR said, like, some of the stuff about Vince McMahon very much so is, like, the illusion and, like, the lore that has grown with him. But he's like, other stuff is plain crazy. Like, that is him. Yep. And I don't think he elaborated on, like, which is which. I'm like, thanks, JR. Can you give a list?
Just let us all let our minds just try to... I bet you the sneezing thing's real. I could see that being real.
Yeah. Well, especially, like, if he is a germaphobe, it might not be that he sees it as a sign of weakness. He might just be like, ugh. Ugh. I could see that. Maybe it's not, like, a weakness thing, but...
I think I heard that, like, because it's, like, you not having control of your body, so that's, like, it's something... It's a wild thing of his reason.
Then he has to hate orgasms. Heard it right here, everyone. Vince McMahon hates orgasms. He likes big, sweaty men. Hates orgasms.
Oh my god. Oh, yeah, and this is the point. Okay, it's been about 3 hours, so yeah, we're broken, aren't we?
Yeah. Yep. So any other managers you want to touch upon?
Oh my god, 3 hours. What are we, cultaholic?
2 episodes. There are 2 episodes.
That's true. I think we touched on, like, the big ones, right? Like Heyman, Miss Elizabeth,
some underappreciated ones.
Oh my god, you know the one we didn't talk about? Like, Paul Bearer.
Oh, yeah.
How did we...
He has his own, like... You don't even think of him as a manager necessarily because he is...
Like an entity.
Yeah. Like, was he even real? Like, I know he was. But, yeah. I mean, he was a mortician who was possessed by the devil, basically.
Yeah. I don't think... like Undertaker would have taken off as much without Paul. Like, they very much both needed each other for it to
work.
Yep.
Yeah.
He was
and Kane too. Like, I mean, he obviously didn't have... Kane wouldn't have existed without the other two. He would have just been, instead of Isaac Yankem, he would have been something awful as well.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, that goes without saying that Paul Bearer is definitely on the Mount Rushmore of wrestling managers.
Yeah. Unfortunately, like, again, I think a lot he's forgotten about because Paul Bearer seems like something other than a manager. You don't know what.
Like a
god? Like, I don't know.
He was like a character more than like a manager.
Yeah, like he was very much so a character. I mean, they're all characters and like, but more so.
It was more cartoony, but without being like a cartoon. Like,
Camp WWE.
Yeah. Oh my god, I watched like one of those. But
I watched several and I don't know why. I think Seth Green was in on making that.
Oh, get out.
Yeah.
I liked the Storytellers one, or like the animated stuff.
Yeah, I like the Storytellers one. Anything where like, yeah, they were telling stories from like the road.
Like ride along.
I have a book actually that's like written down stories of them on the road. I think it's called like Tales from the Road, and it's like Rey Mysterio driving like on a motorcycle and Big Show behind him with his arms folded, like not having a good time. But within that is a story from Molly Holly, which tells you how old this book is. And she said, like, when she was on the road, she would always like call ahead and make a reservation, so she always had a place to stay, which seems common. This was before like the internet was on everyone's phones and it was really easy to do that. I think this was, we're printing out directions or using a map time. And so she tells a story about how she goes to this one town. She doesn't expect it to be crazy. And like she had just like driven through the night. Like she had the extra energy or whatever. But by the time she got there, she was really tired. And she gets to a hotel that she usually stays at. And they're like, sorry, we're all full. And she was like, oh, okay. I'm just going to go to the next place. And they were like, and so she finds out the next place that they're all full and that the everywhere in town is. And she's like, I didn't think Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania would be such a hot spot. And I died because I went to college in Wilkes-Barre. I guarantee it was like a college graduation because there's like 4 colleges there. But
Wilkes, Kings,
Misericordia, LCCCCCCC. Yeah, I think those are the
big 4.
Yeah. Wilkes University. That was the only university on River Street. Like 4 people will understand that. Andrew, if you're listening.
Yeah, our friends that happen to want to catch our early podcast, they're the ones that'll get it.
Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, it's right after the Vince McMahon doesn't like orgasms section.
Oh, Lord.
So any other managers?
Oh, I'm sure there's more, but I think I'm broken.
Yep, same. Yeah. Honorable mentions to folks like Lita who were... Oh, and Trish Stratus. For TNA. Yeah. Who, I mean, she obviously is not remembered for her managerial stuff, but that's how she got started in the ring. God, she was terrible when she started. But
I was never a fan. Like, when I was younger, I think it was because, like I said, I was the only girl in the neighborhood, and it was all boys and us watching, and like they were all like fawning over her, and I was like, like...
I was a Test fan. I think I'm the only person that can say that.
Hi, nice to meet you, Test only.
Did you know he had a website after he left that he would answer questions, and he answered one of mine when I was like, I don't know, 13 or 14.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah. You've heard of OnlyFans. Well, this is Test OnlyFans.
Completely different things.
Yep. It's just me dressing up as Test.
Oh, okay. Boy.
Well,
if you've stuck this long,
you're drunk and you can't figure out how to turn off.
Bless your heart. We'll get you a link to the Test Only.
Here's your honorary link.
Oh my God.
At least we're amused.
Okay.
Well, that's it, everyone. I think.
Thank you for sticking with this.
Remember, Paul Heyman is the greatest manager. Vince McMahon doesn't like orgasms.
And Sabrina has a Test Only fan.